Edge of Space, developed by Handyman Studios and published by Reverb Publishing, is a 2D dynamically generated space adventure. Much to the likes of the ever-popular Terraria and the recent debut of Starbound, Edge of Space allows you to venture through alien planets, build a home base, fend off the local wildlife, and most importantly, survive. It may seem like these survival games are a dime a dozen, but the fine folks over at Handyman Studios have put their own spin on the whole survival craft genre. I'm going to preface this by saying that Edge of Space is in a very early stage of development. It was recently updated and gained some traction through Steam's early access, but the fact of the matter is that Edge of Space is a bit rough around the edges as of right now. It can be quite a turnoff to play a game so early in development, especially if it gives you the wrong impressions due to bugs and other strange anomalies. I will say though, that in the 2 weeks that I've been playing the game, there has been a staggering amount of bug fixes, and the patches, they have just really improved the experience overall. I wholeheartedly believe that Edge of Space will improve in this respect as the developers iron out bugs, UI issues, and they added more content. In Edge of Space, you play as a lonely operative representing the Ark Corporation. After catching some beauty sleep in a cryo chamber, you wake up and realize that you're basically lost. The only chance of survival is to depend on the amazing technologies that brought you to, well, the Edge of Space. The only problem here is that you'll have to find the materials that you need to survive amidst a hostile and dangerous planet. Actually, planet might not even be the right word for Edge of Space. It's more like an asteroid field where you bounce to and from different small floating landmasses. One facet of Edge of Space that's particularly interesting is how the environment is constantly working to kill you. Make no doubt about it, you've arrived in a hellhole that is out for your blood. There are plenty of enemies wandering around trying to eat you, but more than that, the entire game world just wants your flesh. As you descend lower and lower into this strange world that you're in, you'll take exposure damage if you're not fully equipped. This can be really a range of things, including radiation or a lack of oxygen. Most people I know don't really like to take exposure damage, so you'll want to make sure that you have everything that you need to oxygenate the area or get rid of the radiation. As an ArkCo Operative, you can also defend your new territory with a series of droids or turrets. As of March 2014, combat in Edge of Space is completely centered around guns. There aren't any melee weapons as of now, unfortunately. However, there are some interesting ideas with the guns. My favorite example is the Arc Light, a gun that shoots out a sticky, glowing canister. This is extremely useful when you're spelunking through various caverns that you find scattered throughout the space. And it sure beats placing a torch down every 10 feet. In fact, the torches have such a low light radius that I tend to just stick with the narrow glow of my laser pick and the Arc Light. As someone who has never played Edge of Space before, first impressions can really kill the experience. I'm not gonna lie, it is pretty rough around the edges, especially in the first hour or so. Although it has improved dramatically since I've received the game, the biggest problem is still the UI. There are some really weird peculiarities that really need adjusting, especially if you compare them to the flexibilities of other games. One example would be the hotbar, which is a bit complicated because it can take multiple clicks in to slot different items. The crafting menu is categorized into different sections, but you'll have to individually click each item that you want to use in a recipe. I see what they're trying to do, and I really like the fact that some recipes you can substitute many different items, but as of right now it's pretty clunky. There are other little things like this that really drag down the experience, despite the survival aspects of the game working as intended. Edge of Space has a non-linear sense of progression, but sometimes it's more complicated than its own good. There are plenty of machines that you can use to craft items, but when it comes to weapons and armor, you'll have to go to an armory. This is really more tedious than it needs to be because you'll have to drop down various unmarked chutes and you'll be given out whatever weapon lies at the bottom, as well as a recipe for the said weapon. The first time I went to the armory, I fell down the chute and I got a shotgun. Don't get me wrong, shotguns are awesome and everything, but I didn't get to look at the other weapons that I could have made, so it's a little bit disappointing. In a recent patch, one of the developers of Terraria actually added in a few things into Edge of Space. It's great to see that Edge of Space has the support of a well-known and beloved developer, and it's even better to see Skeletron inside of Edge of Space. A Megatron, as it's called in-game, adds some much-needed flavor to the typical crabs and floating snails that you'll find outside your base, not to mention he's very difficult. In the end, Edge of Space is still very much a work in progress. If you go in expecting a full-fledged game with lots of content, lots of polish, you'll be sorely disappointed. What Edge of Space excels at, however, is creating a unique environment with interesting gunplay and addicting gameplay. It's tough to quit playing when you're in the middle of setting up a fortress or going on an expedition to dangerous zones. Given a few months in the oven, and I have no doubt that Edge of Space will easily turn it into something that will be worth your money. Thanks for watching our Indie Spotlight review for Edge of Space. Please remember that Edge of Space is not completed, and more features will be added as the game develops. As such, in the future, this article may not be a fair representation of the game.